when I look at all these beautiful aesthetic journals or doodles or illustrations, I'm always thinking that, oh, this person was perfect all along. So when I see their process, it gives me hope that, okay, with enough practice, I can get to that point as well. So that's what I wanted to showcase today, that it does take practice and you do have hope, because you can go from this mess to something less messy and prettier. So I wanted to make this video to show my journey a little bit and what I've done in terms of journaling so far. Mostly how I got from this initial draft journal to a Hobonichi notebook, which I now use, and how I got to this style specifically, which I feel that this is my personal style. Took me a long time to find something that I really love and that feels right and feels like it's my personal style. So I just wanted to show the beginning of everything and the middle. This is the middle, and this is the one I currently have and use. So yeah, let's get into it. So this one, I made this myself. It's a very simple binding, and the cover is not very nice. And this is sort of my initial style of illustration when I was at the point of experimenting and trying to figure out my personal style. So I started, this one has a bit of a structure. So I made a box, I don't know if you can see. I made a box here for the date, and then I split 2 parts, and I also have space for numbering of the pages, which I don't use anymore. But yeah, at first I had some structure. I felt that I needed it because it was too much pressure to come up with a layout every time, and this was mostly an effort to make this a habit. So I started February, this is 2000, I'm not sure, 2022 maybe? Might be 22 or 21. I think it's 22. So I started out like this because I just wanted to get into the habit of writing every day, and also not put too much pressure on illustrations and drawing. But that was also my plan as well, to start drawing a little bit again, to get used to it, to get used to doodling every day, and most importantly to eventually find my style, right? Because that was, this whole journey was mostly about that. So yeah, I started with this structure, and I started doing a few doodles here and there. Some of them were more elaborate, some were more simple, and I just kept doing this daily. I don't even think I missed a day since then. Here I sort of started realizing that I like this flat icon sort of style, and there's no color here, but I actually really love this spread. Like, the more simple it is. I think my handwriting is better here. My handwriting does change a little bit. Maybe other people cannot see the difference, but I can. Also, my illustration style, especially in the early days, was very different. Because again, this was an experimentation, and every day was an experiment. Every day was a different style. And I think I would go on Pinterest and look at different styles and just get inspired by those styles, and every day try it out just to see if I like it. Here I think it's the first time I created my frog. Yeah, I haven't looked at this in a while, so and this was 2 years ago, right? Around 2 years ago. I also experimented with different planning layouts, but it did not work for me at all. So I decided to keep this just as a journal, not to put any planning into this, like weekly or monthly. I do always put to-do boxes, to-do lists in my daily journal, but I don't do any planning here. I don't do any weekly or monthly planning. I might add that I have an appointment in the to-do list, but then I'll transfer that to my planning, to my planner, desk planner, or bullet journal. So yeah, here, these were closer, much closer to my style today. I was starting to experiment with post-it notes, more cartoony styles. I remember this was the first one that I was like really proud of and way closer to my personal style. As you can see here, the experimentation with this kind of boxes, like notebook style. I really enjoyed these specific spreads here. I really love them. And it was my first indication that I'm going towards a more cartoony style. This was so much fun to create every day, and I mean, as you can see, it's so different from what I'm doing today, because I kept it really free. Like every day, the goal was to experiment. The goal was to do something different, so I can discover my own style. Sometimes I wasn't able to do much, I was busy. Here you can tell that I'm busy. If Frogo is busy, I'm busy too. So. Also, I would experiment a lot with different colors to see what sticks. Watercolors, really not my thing. I don't know if I'm ever gonna do anything with watercolors, but I tried. And then, I don't know if I wasn't experimenting much with the color of the handwriting, but then I started doing that. And I remember I liked it, but the colors were not right. Also here, the colors are not right. You need something darker for the handwriting so you can tell it apart. I still didn't know. I hadn't discovered that yet. So I kind of gave up. And then I wanted to do something Harry Potter style, so I did this one. Again, different, very different style. I had to try it. And even though I liked it, I still love it. Right now when I look at it, I love it. And I love this kind of retro style. I don't know if it's retro, vintage, I don't know. But I could tell, I can see it, I love it. But I can tell that it's not my personal style. I couldn't keep this up. Even though I love it and I love when other people do it, but if it's not your personal style, it just doesn't stick. It doesn't feel right. And then the final one was basically unfinished. It was like a newspaper style, which again, I really loved, but not as much as Harry Potter here. But I knew that it wasn't my style at all. So yeah. With this journal, I didn't really end up finding my style, but I did end up experimenting a lot. And experimenting and sort of ruling out the things that you do not like, that's also helpful. You might not discover what you like, but you will definitely discover what you don't like. So that's also very important. And then I was so excited. I also created this myself. It's much bigger and I was really excited at the time to start using it. And then I had I came closer to my style in terms of illustration, and I still like this style, but again, it wasn't quite there yet. I felt that I was just doing something cute, but not my personal style. So when I started this again, I kept going with the experimentation. I had to keep going for as long as needed. And I think this is 2023. Yeah. Kept trying different things. That's where I started developing this character, Frogo. I experimented with other characters, but they didn't really stick. I sort of got obsessed a little bit with Frogo here. Kept trying different things. I tried stickers, and I love stickers. I love stickers so much. But I just couldn't make it work. I don't know, maybe I didn't have the right stickers. Maybe I don't know how to use them properly. Kept trying, I kept doing different things. During this time, I think I was very busy. This ones I did after, just to test the paper. Again, during this time I was a bit busy, so I wasn't paying attention too much, but I wanted to keep going, so I kept journaling. Here, I did take a break, 2 days, 3 days here. I was very busy at the time. Also, I wasn't sure if I wanted my journal to include planning. I also wanted to experiment with that idea. Maybe I can have a planning here as well, a schedule. But in the end, I decided that it wasn't a good idea, and my journal would just be a journal, with the difference, with the exception that there's a list, a to-do list. Every day. So this is where I started really experimenting with the titles, with the dates. And here I discovered the stamp. I really loved it, and I really wanted to. Here I think this is the first one that is more structured and has the strip of doodles at the bottom and the stamp here. This is where I started getting an idea of what I want. Also, I don't remember when I started. I always had the big letter at the beginning. No, not always, but at some point I started making a big letter for the first one. But here it's more specific, much more similar to what I'm doing now. So whenever I did something that I liked, I just kept doing it. So these two spreads, very close to what I'm doing now. And this is where I started getting hints that, okay, this is it. Like, this is what I like. The cartoony style, the strip at the bottom here, the stamp, and overall a cute vibe, a kawaii vibe. So I started getting the hints. So anytime I would do something that I liked, I think I kept doing it, with some exceptions, a few days that I was again trying new things, stickers and different pens and stuff like that. But in the back of my mind, I knew what I liked from the previous ones, and that's where I started to bring it back. Here I started to give more emphasis on this layout, because I found how useful it is to create these lists in the morning when I started journaling. I kept it up. So this was, I think, the first one that was very close to what I'm doing now, and it was a very clear indication that okay, we're going towards this direction. And this was one of my favorites in the beginning. Just started feeling more and more right, that this, I'm going to the right direction in terms of style. But I did keep experimenting a little bit, because again, I wasn't sure. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted to incorporate doodles a lot more. I just didn't know how to do it in a consistent way. And here I was still at my experimentation stage. I tried doing doodles within the text. Again, some things are cute and nice, but it just didn't feel right. I can't believe it took me this long. Here I'm getting a bit closer, experimenting with different colors. I knew I wanted to incorporate different colors. Again, I didn't know how. Here I'm making some combos. And here I think this is much closer. This specific strip of doodles. This is where when I started, yeah, this is the beginning right here. This is where I started to realize that this is what I want, that this was the way to incorporate some doodles in my journal. And yeah, officially here I am diving deeper into this style. In the beginning I was only using 2 colors. Here I used 3, but I didn't like it. It was still monochrome. And then I was using 2 colors, and I was experimenting a lot more with this layout, with the doodles. I didn't know what to do with this section yet, so I started putting motivational quotes. But here you can clearly see that I'm diving a lot deeper into this specific style. This is where I sort of realized that okay, here it is. We are on the right path. I kept improving it and I kept developing this specific style. It didn't feel 100%, it felt like 80% of the way. But at this point, I knew that this was it. So I kept doing the same thing. I kept repeating and just changing the colors, changing the themes of the doodles. And then I think I felt that something is missing. I don't know at which point I started to use 3 colors, but I could feel that something is missing. But at this point, I definitely knew that this was my style, and that I wanted to develop it further. I was definitely not sure about this spot here, and everything was not as structured as it is now. That's what didn't feel right to me, the fact that it wasn't structured enough. It's still nice, and if I kept this style it would be fine. And this, yeah, this is the exact point, this one, where I start to create more structure in the margins. A lot more structure, a lot more elaborate doodles. And this is one of my favorite themes. It's the Japanese snacks. I really love this one. And I remember I really loved this combination of colors. And I made them my brand colors as well. This is the first one that has all of the boxes. I wasn't crazy about the colors. And then, yeah, after I discovered that I prefer this layout, everything to be in a box on the side, I just dived into that and kept doing it. This one I really loved, but because it was Halloween, I made the mistake to do the same colors for both days, and I feel that the doodles, even though are my favorite doodles, I mean, one of my favorites, I feel that they get lost because of the same colors. They sort of blend together too much. But I was really proud of this one. And then here, actually, yeah, this was the first time I used 3 colors, and I realized that it makes sense, and I continued using 3 colors. That's where I developed the 3 color combinations. With this one, I think was my favorite, but obviously also the green one. And then I was way closer to my illustration style. Yeah, these ones are much closer to what I'm doing now. Yes, I remember because I got used to using this specific layout in this notebook that I created myself. I got used to using these margins. I have pre-made margins here. And when I moved to the Hobonichi, that was a challenge because it doesn't have these margins. And this is where I decided to switch to the Hobonichi because this was running out anyway, and my order came in, so I was like, let's just do this. Let's just move on. I had already realized that that's my style, so I knew I was going to continue with this specific style in the Hobonichi. The reason I got the plain notebook was because I wanted this specific layout. I didn't want to have anything printed on it. No numbers, no quotes or anything. That's why I didn't get the Hobonichi cousin. And also because I wanted my journal to be just a journal, not a planner. So I decided to go with this one. The first page was not the best because it was an adjustment page. I didn't realize that there was no margins, and I had to create my own margins or be aware of them. And I remember I created this first one. I was like, something is very wrong here. I was starting to regret moving into the Hobonichi, but I said, okay, I'll just try again. And here's where I started to put more margins, leaving empty spaces essentially all around. And I also started doing double lines. This is just a single line. I started doing double lines so I can give more emphasis to this, to the layout. And this is the Hobonichi so far. At this point, I was not experimenting anymore. I was experimenting a little bit with the colors, different color combinations, different styles of doodles. I think it was depending as well on how busy I was that day or how much inspiration I had that day. I did not like the gray one. I realized that I needed darker colors, and slowly I found my style a lot more, and also the color combinations that I prefer. I do still experiment a little bit with the boxes. The doodles are always different. Towards the end though, it's a bit more consistent. I still experiment a little bit with the style of the boxes. Sometimes, especially the last one, changes a lot. But yeah, this is how I got to this point, and I'm really happy with it. I do feel that it's 100% my style, my personal style. And because I do the same layout every day, it became much easier to do because there's less decisions I have to make daily. And the more you do it, the more you get used to doing it, and it just becomes this automatic action of just filling the paper, filling the paper with boxes. And this one is my favorite. I think here I started making a frog, but it turned out to be a bear. I really love this paper. At first I was very scared because it was ghosting a lot, and it's very sensitive sort of paper, but I think it looks okay. Like you can see the other page, especially when you do this. You can see the other page, but if it's flat like this, I think it's fine. This paper, I don't know, it feels more special in a way. It doesn't feel like plain paper. It took a while to get used to it because before that, this is regular print paper. I didn't have to be delicate with it. I could just draw whatever. There's a bit of ghosting here as well. Actually, I think this ghosting is worse than this one because this paper is very absorbent. So yeah, I think. But I felt so comfortable because I didn't have to be delicate with it. And it wasn't an adjustment period to get used to this one. It's so delicate, and I don't know, but at the end of the day, I really love it because it feels special. And I just keep thinking how it's going to feel when all of this is completed. Like already feels great to just flip through it. Again, I was experimenting a little bit with other styles here, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's clear that I prefer the cartoony kawaii style. Here I'm also changing up the colors a little bit. Here I tried to do more of comic strip style, but I feel at the end of the day it's a bit crowded, a bit busy. I will try this again, but maybe leave more lines empty here, more empty space. Perhaps keep the margins as well, because I feel that it blends in too much. You can't really tell, because I don't put too much color into these illustrations. I try to keep it minimal. Even this is too much color. Like I prefer this one, it's more minimal. This is one of my favorites because it's my favorite colors so far, and the design I feel is very clean. And this is the last one that I made today. I also made a page in the back just for testing. I had to do this because I had never used, I had an accident here as well. I had never used this kind of paper. I had to check, and it was really scary when I saw this ghosting here. I got really scared. I was regretting my life's decisions at this point. But then when I started doing this, when I started writing on both pages, I was seriously thinking of only using one side of the paper, one side of the book, and not writing on this side at all. But then, I don't know, I decided to just go for it, and I don't regret it because it's not really a problem. You do see some ghosting, but because it's dark colors, you focus on the new one, not the previous one. So I think it's fine. To me, it was really important to have consistency because it's something that I've never had in my life. It's something I always struggled with, to have consistency in style or to just form new habits in general. That was really tough for me, and to be able to do this now, it's just incredible. And looking at it, it just reminds me of the journey and how hard it was to form this sort of habit. And I'm really proud of myself just for that. And at the end of the day, it gives me something to look forward to every single day that makes me feel proud of myself. And even on its own, it just brings me joy just looking at it, just the colors and the cuteness of it. It's really satisfying. It's really satisfying. But again, it took a long time. To get to this point. A lot of experimentation, a lot of mistakes, a lot of, I'm not gonna say ugly, but some not so pretty spreads. And I just wanted to show the process, because people see the final result and they think that this is it, that this is how it's been from the beginning. But it's definitely not. It takes a lot of practice. And for me, it took a year. It took a year and 2 journals to get to this point. And there it is. At some point, it didn't look pretty at all. Right? Some ugly doodles and random boxes and random illustrations and doodles and sticky notes and just a mess. Like, I look at this and it's just a mess. I don't judge other journals for being messy, but I definitely judge myself really harshly. But if this was somebody else's, I would love it. I would be like, wow, this is so beautiful. But because it's mine, I don't know, especially like things like this, I don't know, I find them really just messy and ugly. But yeah, I think that it's important to know this. It's important because when I look at all these beautiful aesthetic journals or doodles or illustrations, I'm always thinking that, oh, this person was perfect all along. So when I see their process, it gives me hope that, okay, with enough practice, I can get to that point as well. So that's what I wanted to showcase today, that it does take practice and you do have hope, because you can go from this mess to something less messy and prettier and more to your liking. If you love the mess, by all means, go ahead. But if you love something more structured and more aesthetic, let's say, there is hope. If I did it, you can do it as well.